Hi everyone, I'm Gurnoor Kaur Bahal, and in today's special episode of Workwise with Naukri, we talk about breaking some stereotypes around neurodiversity at the workplace. Can learning disabilities like dyslexia hold you back work-wise? Is it a hurdle when it comes to achieving career success? Let's discuss all of this and so much more in the very exciting season finale of Workwise with Naukri. We have a stellar guest list for whom I'm extremely grateful to have made it. We have with us Mr. Aditya Ghosh, co-founder Akasa Airlines. In today's day and age, what does it mean to be neurodiverse at the workplace? What is your definition of it? And why is it so important to
For
consider?
me, as someone who has been trying to build businesses which reach out to a lot of people, millions of people, um, inclusion and more importantly, diversity of thought is a business imperative, and from there on, starts the journey of not only having people who are different from me, but also people who think different from me. So that's how I kind of see neurodiversity, and for me, therefore, is just an extension of what you're trying to build as an organization in itself. And it's not a learning disability, but I see it as a learning difference. And therefore, if one can encourage that differentiation and encourage that diversity of thought, along with all of the other diversities that we want to celebrate, um, uh, it becomes a more powerful story, and that's how I look.
What do you think are your challenges when it comes down to hiring dyslexic people? What are the challenges that you face, and how have you overcome these challenges in practice, actually?
Well, there are I think two challenges. One is a common challenge to all kinds of diversity, which is perception. The majority perceives a certain diversity in a certain way, and that comes out of the lack of
Right.
exposure, education, understanding, whatever you want to call it. So one is just to evangelize this in your organization and in and around you, right? And lead by example. So that's I think the first big challenge, right? um, then
Right.
the second part is um, that it is a learning journey, right? So it's when I am able to work with people with different abilities or different ways of thinking. It's a bit of a learning journey to say, hey, you know what? Tell me, how can I support you? Because I have to do something different for you. But what is it? Tell me, so that I
Right.
can work upon it. And I think that conversation really helps. I mean, I teach a course at Ashoka University, and I have visually challenged students in my class. And so when they tell me that, or I mean, somebody is completely blind, I can see, but then there's someone else says that, look, prof, I can't read it, so therefore I have to keep that in mind. Or if there is a slide up on the screen, I have to read it out and I have to explain what's happening in that diagram, for instance. So therefore, I'm guessing the same thing
Right.
applies to people with dyslexia or other neurodiverse you know diagnosis.
What are those areas and skills where neurodivergent persons can excel at their workplace? So, yeah, let's start with that.
Well, I I'm tempted to say, why not in everything? Frankly, and that's I mean, I just start off by saying that, rather than trying to think which ones are they going to be good at. Just think they might be good at everything, and let's see, let's find out, just like you would find out with anybody else, right? I mean, if you gave me a job and I really sucked at it, you you I'll have to
You'd find out.
I'll find out. And similarly, if you gave me a chance at doing something that I wasn't particularly qualified for, and I did a reasonably good job, you will give me a pat on my back, and that's I think how we should start off, frankly. But in my experience, anything which is deeply analytical, anything which requires a lot of focus, uh, those are uh, those are areas where I've seen people do really well. But I really hesitate to advocate that, because it almost sounds like, oh, therefore do you think they're not going to be good at creative things? They're painters and they're poets and they're writers. So it's difficult to say which one. Why not say all? And let's find out.
All right, Aditya, for that final statement. So tell me, in one statement, how can leaders actually build teams which are neurodiverse, specifically dyslexic, in order to grow their brand, company, their workforce, and help them accelerate in whatever their career and their business goals are?
Well, I think everything starts off by leading by example. So the very first is, if you're a leader, my suggestion would be to talk to the talent acquisition colleagues and the HR folks and say, look, I'm open to hiring and working with people with dyslexia. Item number one. Item number two is go out and seek expert help on saying, to make it more comfortable and inclusive for people with dyslexia or neurodiversity to come and work with me, what do I need to do differently? Right. And number three is to evangelize that through education, sensitization across the organization. And number four is, which is probably the most important, that if you have a colleague with dyslexia who's doing really, really well in whatever they're doing, then celebrate them and make them a public hero, so that they become inspirational role models for many others, and it also normalizes it for the rest of the organization.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the season finale of Workwise with Naukri. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And if you did enjoy it, then do subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to. Stay tuned for more. I'm Gurnoor Kaur Bahel, and this was Workwise with Naukri, a career podcast produced by Wine Studio.